Winter weather in the Mid-South can be a wild event, offering visuals that go from nice to ice in a matter of miles. In the next 30 minutes, the Skywatch 17 weather team will take a look back at some winter weather that gave us the cold shoulder. And we'll look forward to what Old Man Winter has in store for us this season. Plus, see what you need to do to get your car road ready for the cold temperatures.
Good evening. I'm Skywatch Chief Meteorologist Katie Morgan.
I'm meteorologist Craig Edwards.
And I'm meteorologist Barack Shapiro, and we have a lot in store for you. We saw some really frigid temperatures this week.
We certainly have, but it's far from the coldest that we've seen in Nashville. Here's a quick trivia question for you. What's the coldest temperature Nashvillians have ever experienced? Is it -5, -10 degrees, or -17 degrees? What do you think, Brock?
Craig, the answer I think for some folks might surprise you considering it's Middle Tennessee, but it was a bone-chilling 17 degrees below zero. Ouch! And that happened back on January 21st, 1985. It wasn't just cold that day. There were also 6 inches of snow on the ground. Katie?
Sounds too cold. It's too cold for me. Well, winter weather is always a hot topic, especially on social media sites. Folks are quick to share anything and everything about winter weather, storms and forecasts. But can you trust where that information is coming from?
Social media is a powerful tool for meteorologists. When we forecast severe or winter weather, we're able to spread the word quicker through platforms like Facebook and Twitter. Information is shared and we get our important message out to as many people as possible. Sounds great, right? The problem we're running into is that we're competing for attention with hyped-up forecasts found on social media. Anyone can put together a forecast and then post it online. How many times have you seen a picture of a giant snowstorm promising 2 feet of snow for a storm that's nearly 2 weeks away? These types of posts are irresponsible, and these are the posts that start an internet wildfire. Mother Nature can be tricky, and Mets may not always be spot on, but the Skywatch 17 weather team will never broadcast forecasts that are meant strictly for attention and ratings. We strive to bring you the most accurate and responsible forecasts possible.
We've seen it time and time again, from buzzwords to hashtags to bogus model data showing a foot of snow with an incoming storm still a week out. Professional meteorologists are constantly masked by social media weather rumors. This winter, it's time to put to rest those rumors and think before you share. We appreciate weather enthusiasts who help spread weather information, but before you share a post, make sure you read the post, know what the post is about. Don't just assume you know from the picture that's posted above. Know your source. Are they trustworthy and credible? And number 3, check the time and date of the post. Make sure it is current so old posts aren't being recycled to create confusion. Keeping these things in mind will weed out unnecessary and inaccurate posts, helping to cut down on misinformation that's spread across social media. So we do love it when you all are sharing our information. That's the point, is to spread it to as many people as possible. A forecast that may be coming up, snowstorms may be happening.
But as you said, make sure it comes from someone you've seen and you know and you trust, and you know that their forecasts are accurate.
And it's probably important to say that we want those pictures that you post. Please send those to us. But it's these other posts that are just kind of outlandish, the ones that seem so extreme. Those are the ones we want to avoid.
That's exactly right. All right, throughout tonight's special, we are going to be taking a look back at some of the big weather events that did happen here in the Mid-State, and we're going to start with Nashville's big snow in January of 2003, and this, Barack and Craig, was a big snow for us.
It certainly was.
I mean, the video that we have showing you of what it looked like in the Metro Center is just unreal. I mean, it looks more of like what you would expect in Michigan or Wisconsin, not here in the Mid-State.
And it was a heavy, wet snow, too. So it wasn't easy to move around. Cars got trapped all over the place, and everybody was at a standstill as they were trying to get through the afternoon.
7 inches of snow.
7 inches of snow.
Amazing.
Happening in the early morning hours too, right around 8, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So still as some of those morning commuters were out, and that really did paralyze the city.
So a lot of folks are trapped on the interstates. They can't get on or off, and the cars are just there. And then they're blocking the road for other people who can't get through. So it's just chaos throughout the entire metro area. So it was a mess.
And that seems too, I think, something we would see a little bit more is that heavy, wet snow a lot of times. Because we are right on that dividing line a lot of times where are we going to see snow, are we going to see ice, or is it going to be rain? So that heavy, wet snow, it's really great for making snowmen and can be fun for the kids. but can create a lot of hazardous driving.
A little bit of havoc.
And one of the things, too, I think is interesting is that, we've been talking about all of this unbelievable snow that moved into Buffalo, New York.
Yeah.
And typically for them, it's a dry powder that comes in there. This snow that they're dealing with is the kind that we deal with.
Sure.
The wet
the one that, the really wet, heavy snow. And they've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet of snow.
This is an inches
It's
we're talking about.
No, it's amazing.
It is amazing.
It's going to be interesting to see how long that sticks around.
So you can imagine, what we deal with here with that wet, heavy snow, and they're having to deal with it up there. And it's a totally different thing from that dry powder.
Major different ball game.
Yeah, and they are definitely used to it a little bit more so, seeing that kind of snow and
Yes.
still paralyzing folks up in the north as well. So
we have a lot of snow lovers around here that would like to see some more
Yeah.
snow come in too.
we'll have to see maybe
We'll
later.
see what
We're going to be talking about that forecast a little later on in the show. All right, up next in our special, how to make sure your car is ready for the cold weather.
And it was ice, ice, baby, for folks in Kentucky. We'll take a look back at the big storm that left the bluegrass state coated in ice.
And we've already had some cold temperatures, and it's not even Thanksgiving. So what does that mean for our winter this year? We're going to have your winter weather forecast.
Welcome back to the Skywatch 17 Winter Weather Special. Winter in the Mid-State can be snowy, it can be icy, and as you know, it can be brutally cold. So now's the perfect time before winter gets cranking to get that car checked and make sure it's prepared for the season ahead.
During some of our winters, the Mid-State has looked more like the northern Midwest, where several inches of snow fell. It may be pretty to look at and fun to play in, but getting stuck in it with a broken down car is a whole different story. Doug Hofferth from German Performance Auto in East Nashville says some of the biggest problems he sees from cars that aren't winterized are from coolant systems busting in the winter, bringing car owners some nasty headaches.
Well, that can cause a lot of problems. It can rupture a radiator, rupture the engine block.
Money we would rather not have to shell out to fix. Hofferth also says you should check out your fluid levels, such as your oil, brakes, and windshield fluids. He also says to take a look at your belts and hoses and make sure that they're in good shape. The winter months are a little harder on your car than the summer months, and that's why it's a good time to check your car out and also to refresh your car emergency kit.
A good recommendation to have in the trunk of your car is an emergency kit. The one that I have here is called Just In Case. So in the event that you end up on the side of the road, you have gloves to help you change the tire if you get a flat, a flashlight, also jumper cables if your car does stall. Another thing that you want to have in the back of your car, and it's actually recommended by the DMV.org, is a blanket. If you're ending up on the side of the road on a very cold wintry night, you're going to want to stay warm.
Some other things that the DMV.org recommends to keep in your emergency kit are flares, boots, a radio, engine oil, washer fluid, coolant, and an ice scraper.
And one of the other things that Doug was also mentioning is the reason why winter's so harsh on some of the hosing in your cars, because during the summer it's already warm, so it doesn't have that far to heat up. And in the summer or in the winter time, it goes from really cold to really hot, so that working of the hoses makes extra stress and wears them a whole lot faster.
Yeah, and I just had to replace a battery the other day because of the cold that came into Middle Tennessee.
I got to do just good reminder here, because I need to get a new windshield wiper.
Yep.
I always like to replace the windshield wipers before you go into the winter season as well. All right, now time to talk about another big weather event here in the Mid-State. Folks in Kentucky are sure to remember the big ice storm of January 2009. You all remember this one too, huh?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
This one was unbelievable with the amount of ice that fell over 2 days for our friends in Kentucky.
Yeah, and it was like 500,000 people lost electricity at the height of the storm, and it was off for more than a week for more than 100,000 folks in Kentucky.
Some of our folks up in Trigg County and Christian County were looking close to 2 inches of accumulated ice on tree branches, on power lines. You get to a quarter to a half inch and we're looking at damage.
Oh, absolutely.
Power lines down, trees down. But when you're talking about 2 inches of ice, that is just destructive.
And one of the worst storms to ever affect Kentucky for that ice storm. In fact, some folks without power for over a week.
Yeah.
So, and with cold temperatures and ice around, you know that doesn't go anywhere anytime soon. So you're stuck with being at home without power for such a long time. So really, it was rough for our friends
Temperatures
in Kentucky.
inside the home started to really drop. So as people were in their homes trying to stay warm without any heat coming in, then you're talking about temperatures getting back down to almost the freezing point inside your home. And so that really makes it uncomfortable.
It's kind of an eerie thing too. I remember covering an ice storm years back, and you go out and you cover this area that's without power, and they've been without power for days. All you hear, it's very quiet, and all you hear is that little generator sound going, because everybody's on generators. You've got cracking of the ice as well. It's kind of an eerie sight.
It is, yeah.
It is.
And the other thing you have to watch out for, a lot of folks get those generators out, and then the carbon monoxide starts to build up from the generators, and we have people that die from that every year.
So you always want to make sure those are well ventilated. Also, we were listening to, at one point, what the National Weather Service was saying about that particular event, that had it come just 75 miles south and east, it would have affected a good chunk of the mid-state, in which we would have been crippled, or paralyzed, rather, from all of that ice. So.
We're not prepared for that kind of thing anymore.
Right.
You know, back in the old days, they used to have wood heaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Everybody would heat their homes that way and cook that way.
Right.
These days, we don't do that.
Yeah.
No.
So what would you do? That's one of the questions I always ask.
That's a really good question.
Hopefully, we're not going to be looking at anything icy this winter.
Absolutely.
Never like to deal with that.
No.
All right, coming up, what is the best way to predict winter weather? We'll show you some of the more popular ways with folklore methods.
And it's been more than 50 years since a snowstorm brought Nashville to a complete standstill. We're going to take a look back at the blizzard of '51.
Plus, snow in our forecast earlier this week. Does that give us a clue to how much snow we will get this winter? We'll answer that coming up in your next winter forecast.
Welcome back to the Skywatch 17 Winter Weather Special. Trying to figure out how much snow we'll get or how cold it's going to be can depend on a lot of factors. When it comes to winter weather predictions, some folks like to go back to their roots, literally. Folklore predictions for winter weather have been around for generations and rely on the way some plants form their seeds, leaves, and roots. For example, the persimmon fruit is said to predict the coming winter weather by the shape of its seed. If the seed has a center that looks like a knife, expect ice for the winter. If it looks like a fork, expect a mild winter. But if it looks like a spoon or shovel, get ready for a big, snowy winter. By the way, we've been told the seeds in Kentucky and Tennessee this year look like a spoon. The author of Backyard Weather Folklore, meteorologist John Belsky, says most folklore forecasting techniques do have a basis in meteorology. They're usually an indication of air pressure, moisture changes, or wind. The behavior of insects, animals, and plants does change as they sense changing weather. In his book, Belsky rates all of the 1,600 weather sayings he has uncovered with an ABC scale. Now, many of them do get an A, but most of those are for very short-term forecasts, such as a half hour or an hour before a rainstorm or similar event begins. So you can imagine forecasting for a season becomes much more difficult using weather folklore. That being said, Belsky says after looking at the folklore forecast for the last several years, the folklore forecast has been right 7 out of 10 years. Dick Freimeyer, the doctor of barnyard science from Breckinridge County, Kentucky, who made appearances on Jay Leno, Johnny Carson, and David Letterman with his weather predictions, died last year. But his son JL has taken on the task of his family predictions. JL says Kentucky will have a white Christmas this year with 6 inches of snow. He says the natural signs indicate the week of January 20th will be the coldest of the season with a low of -6, and the last snow of the season will be on March 11th. The Farmer's Almanac suggested the winter would be colder than normal last year for much of the U.S., and they were very accurate. This year, both the Farmer's Almanac and the Old Farmer's Almanac are both predicting a cold and snowy winter.
I don't think anybody
So
would
what
have
do you think,
issues with that. Yeah.
It's really, really interesting. I mean, the fact that they've been right 7 out of 10 years, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a really general forecast most of the time, except for JL. And I have to admit, I knew his dad, and I talked to him many, many times as I was working in Louisville, Kentucky, with John Belsky, as a matter of fact. And his dad was just a delightful guy. Everybody loved him. And his forecasts were unbelievable, how specific he would get.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you this. Whenever he gave you a forecast, he said he was right 70% of the time if you give him 2 days leeway.
Right.
Hey, 2 days.
So, you know, you have to take it all with a little grain of salt. But it is very interesting. And, of course, people have been forecasting the weather long before we had all of the radars and all the other equipment that we have these days to make those predictions.
And those seeds,
Yeah.
they say
How about
snow.
that, huh?
We'll have to pay attention and see what happens.
I don't know. Well, speaking of snow, now it's time to talk about another big weather event here in the mid-state. This one brought Nashville to a standstill. It was called the Great Blizzard of '51, and this was just incredible. In fact, the worst ice storm in Nashville history. So this started as ice, and then we put snow on top of that.
Of the ice.
Yeah, what was it, 7 inches, I believe?
Something like that, yeah, around
snow.
7, 8 inches of snow. And then, you know, with that, the really, really cold air in place, so it stayed for several days.
Yeah, when we were looking up the blizzard of 51, when we looked at the information, it was saying that once this was all said and done, by February 12th, because this started on the end of January, it went for a couple of days. By the end, it was still there till about the 12th before it began to thaw.
Yeah, deep freeze here, and of course businesses were shut down for days. Airliners were closed for days. We couldn't get travel. Even train service was delayed 2 days or so. So this really did cripple the town.
That was the big one. And trees were forever changed because of the ice that came in. It bent the trees over the roadways, and you couldn't get around simply because the trees covered the roads as well. So
yeah, and that was the other thing. And then when it actually did start to thaw just a smidge, by the 5th, that's when folks started getting out on the roads. And this is where it gets interesting. Is what I believe was a 5-mile traffic jam.
It was a traffic jam. Everybody, was locked inside the house for so long that they wanted to get out. Yeah. And they had a traffic jam because everyone came out at the same time.
They were done hibernating.
Outside. Interesting. Winter isn't just cold, it can be dangerous and deadly in Middle Tennessee. We'll take a look back at some of our severe weather in winter.
Plus, we've been talking about it all night. Right after the break, a detailed look at your winter forecast for this year.
Welcome back to the Skywatch 17 Winter Weather Special. Severe weather and winter weather often go hand in hand for the mid-state. That's why it's important that you are always prepared for a possible severe weather outbreak. And Craig and Barack, some of our strongest severe weather outbreaks do happen in the winter months.
Surprising, isn't it?
Yeah, back in 2013, in January, we had one of the largest ones, the second largest outbreak here in the mid-state, where we had was 22 confirmed tornadoes, and it was in a real short period of time. I believe in less than 8 hours, and actually the National Weather Service did a study on this because just the ingredients coming together for this particular event were just out of this world, and how strong the event was.
People don't think about the fact that we have had tornadoes every month of the year here in Middle Tennessee. So even though we typically go into the cold season, you don't think about severe weather developing. It does happen, and it can happen very, very quickly in a short period of time. When we get one of those really big warm-ups, it'll take place in a day or two, and then all the ingredients come together.
Right, and that cold air is present a lot more in the winter time, so that's where we can get some of those more potent storm systems to form when we do get those pushes of warm air. Another big outbreak, of course, was in 2008, Super Tuesday. This was a big one across the country, if you remember. We had the elections going on that day, and we had quite a few tornadoes here in the mid-state. In fact, one EF3 that killed 22 people here in the mid-state.
Yeah, and that one didn't span over just one county. That one was a 3-county tornado. So, especially in the middle of winter, you don't typically think of that.
Yep. So, I mean, they can be very dangerous. So, once again, all of the plans that you make for severe storm season, keep them around and be ready, because it can happen at any time. It's not just in the spring, and it's not just that 2-week period we talk about usually in the fall. It can happen anytime in Middle Tennessee.
Those are definitely one of the times where we always say, when we have a weather in the winter and we want you to be prepared, we always tell you, hey, these are the times we just want you to be prepared and know what's coming on. By the way, before we get into the winter forecast here, we do have a trivia question for you. And our trivia question is we were wondering, 1 inch of rain, if that fell in the winter months, how much would that equate to in snow? Would that 1 inch of rain be the equivalent of 5 inches of snow, 10 inches of snow, or a foot of snow? Oh, I wish it was.
You like snow? It may be, but 1 inch basically equals 10 inches of snow, making it relatively easy to remember. Now, you have to say that it's not always exactly that easy. Sometimes it has more air mixed with it and than others, and sometimes more water. So it's not exactly always, but it's a good rule of thumb. 1 inch of water, 10 inches of snow.
So we'll see what happens this winter. Katie?
Thanks so much, Barack and Craig. All right, the winter forecast. Last year, we had the 29 coldest winter on record. Our average temperature was 37.6. Coldest day was 2 degrees. And snowfall last year We hardly saw any, 1.4 inches in total. So here's what I'm looking at for the winter ahead. Another cold winter is expected. I don't think we'll be as cold as what we had last year, but a little below average, averaging about 1 to 1.5 degrees below average. And of course, the average winter temp is about 39.9. Average snowfall for Nashville is 6.5. That's over a 30-year average. Last year we saw 1.5. I think this winter we'll see a little bit more, near that average between 4 and 8 inches of snow. Not only that, Brock and Craig, I think we could possibly see an ice event or two, because we're always on that dividing line, but it does look like we're shaping up to see a little bit more precipitation possibly for the winter.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I will say that, you know, in the past couple of years, we've not had a lot of snow.
I agree.
I feel the kids have stated that they've felt cheated.
Yes.
So
exactly
maybe
right.
this
We're due for
winter.
some.
Yeah, so maybe.
I feel cheated a little bit.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
we're going to, you know, the kids want to get out there and get the little sleds and have fun. So
Yeah.
maybe this winter will be it.
I don't know about you. I'm crossing my fingers for maybe one snow event.
At least one good snow.
One fun snow
you
event.
know?
That's right.
Just one, you know, and then we're good. And it's gone by the next day. We're all kosher.
All right. Well, that's it for tonight's Skywatch 17 Winter Weather Special.
Don't forget, the best way to keep up to date on the changing weather is to download the Fox 17 weather app. It will send you instant notifications whenever weather could be a problem.
And you can always log on to fox17.com, click on weather for the latest radar, temperatures, and forecast.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Don't go anywhere. Fox 17 News at 10 starts now.